Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this is going to be an exciting Raid Shadow Legends video because what I've done is develop a dopamine index. And what I mean by that is champions that are only available in shards. So what I did was remove all of the exclusive champions, all of the champions like Ninja that you can't be acquired, all of the champions that can't be summoned in shards. I took them out, and I'm gonna develop a list from 1 to 100, ranking every single champion in my opinion as to how excited someone should be pulling that champion for the first time and adding the first copy of them to their account. And all of the normal tier list stuff applies. It's going to be very difficult to do this. I'm trying my best to just kind of go by overall, but it's very situational. Every account is different. You know all the boring caveats that go into tier lists. It's difficult, but I'm going to do my best to lay it out 1 through 100. And then in each video, I'm going to lay them out in chunks of 10 because it's impossible for me to talk about 100 champions and go through them all in one video. So in this video, we're going to go 91 through 100 on my Raid Shadow Legends dopamine index for how excited someone should be to pull their first copy of a champion out of shards. Let's get into it. And our first champion coming in at number 100 is going to be Allure. Allure is a very iconic, epic champion in the game. Super well known. She's been in a lot of Raid Shadow Legends promotional art and all of that as the demon succubus model here, an extremely popular champion. Now the selling point for Allure is going to be her A1, and that is because it's one of the best turn meter manipulators in the game. You've got an epic champion here that hits 3 times and decreases the turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. Now Allure is very difficult to gear because you need a ton of stats on her. You need enough HP and defense to be able to survive effectively and keep her alive. You also need a lot of speed because she functions best as a high speed champion. Then you need to get her to 100% crit rate because this A1 does nothing if you're not critting. And then you also need to get enough accuracy to make her relevant in the content that she's trying to remove turn meter. And she's relevant all the way up to the end game in places like Dark Fae and the hard Doom Towers. So Allure, difficult to gear, but everybody is going to want a copy of Allure on their account. And also something really cool about Allure that doesn't apply to very many champions is you don't even need books on her at all because the A1, we don't really care about her damage and we're only getting damage on the A1. Then for her A2 and A3, the cooldown abilities, a lot of people literally just lock them out and don't even use the A2 and A3 at all. So you just want Allure to be spamming her A1 as much as possible. Thus, we don't really get anything out of booking her. Very, very good champion to get early game, but you do typically get a little bit more value out of her in optimized teams as opposed to getting like some amazing early game progression. There's usually better champions for that. Then at number 99, I have got another epic champion here in the HP scaling Husk. Now you can see the green trending up arrow on Husk, and that is because a lot of people are kind of seeing more value in him now that we have areas like Hydra being added to the game, and he's an amazing DPS option there because it's very rare to have an ability like this one here where you have a 35% chance to place a stun, amazing for all sorts of PvE content, faction wars, things like that. But you also scale his damage off of enemy max HP, which means he can hit super hard in areas like the Hydra. Coming in at number 98, we have got Royal Guard. Now, similar to Husk, the main selling point for Royal Guard is definitely going to be the AoE scaling with enemy max HP ability, but a lot of people actually forget that Royal Guard has a pretty solid kit besides that for anybody that's early game or mid game as well, because the A1 is going to be the big version of decreased defense, and then also he can decrease speed and turn meter as well on the A3. So he's actually a pretty solid epic in lots of different ways, but definitely the main selling point is going to be the enemy max HP, where you can do tons of damage in places like the Hydra and also some of those dungeons where you're not hitting the wall of blocking enemy max HP and how well it can scale. Number 97 is going to be one of the best general utility epics in the game, but also saw a huge value surge ever since the Hydra came out. And the main reason being that she can not only break defense, but also place a block buffs right there for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. But Ugo also has capability to rescue your entire team and salvage a broken run, because on the A3 right here, if all allies are dead, revive them with 50% HP and fill their turn meters to 50%. And then she also places a leech with the A1, so she can help your team sustain. She can break the defense to increase the damage of your team. She can block buffs of your opponents, and she can even rescue a failed run if she is built in a tanky, high accuracy build and is the last person alive. Number 96 is going to be one of my favorite epics in the game, Stag Knight. And the way I always describe this in videos is when I do account takeovers for someone that is early game or mid game, one of the first things I ask, or one of the first things I look for when I log into their account is, do you have Stag Knight? Because Stag Knight is a ridiculous pull to help with progression, but he's also viable in the end game because I even use him in my main team for taking down the hardest level of Dark Fae in the Doom Tower. It's because he's got this A1 that can do the big version of decreased speed. Then he can book up to a 3-turn cooldown of breaking both defense and attack, the big versions of them, AoE 3 turns. And then also as a passive, that's going to help him be a little bit more consistent on landing those debuffs for those people that are early game and can't quite hit those accuracy thresholds yet. Plus, he has amazing base stats with 107 base speed, really good HP and defense to boot here for an epic champion. Then we finally get into a legendary champion after blasting through some of those best epics, and we get to number 95 being Vlad the Nightborn. I think he is an amazing, underrated utility DPS. Just let me read through this kit for you here real quick. On the A1, you've got destroy the target's max HP by 30% and heal him by 30% of the damage. So some self-sustain there, plus a lot of utility in certain areas of the game, bringing that destroy. Then you have an AoE leech, and then also a chance of stealing 50% of the turn meter if they're in a proper faction, and then also decrease the turn meter as well. So if you're going up against somebody in those factions, Bannerlord, Sacred Order, High Elves, you're going up against Arbiters, things like that, you are going to get a ton of value if you book him up to having this on a 3-turn cooldown. But not only that, he can also do lockout. On the A3, you're going to do AoE defense break and block their active skills for 2 turns, and you can get this to a 3-turn cooldown. So if you're cycling through in a team, you're able to almost perma lock out your opponents once you get him rolling. And he's going to place a perfect veil on himself so you can help give him a little bit of sustain because he is a little bit low in the base HP department. But then he can also get a little bit more sustain here by placing a revive on death buff on himself for 2 turns every time he kills an enemy, and then also heal this champion and fill the turn meter by 50% every time he gets a kill as well. Lots of snowball potential here, and he does have a tandem ability here with Constantine. Number 94 is going to be the Knight Revenant Legendary Tomb Lord. Now you can see the red trending down arrow for Tomb Lord. He used to be way up there back in the day because he was doing a lot of really cool things like soloing the dragon. We've got some more options that have hit the game that can fill some of those roles like Nishok, Vermin Lord, and things like that. But Tomb Lord is still definitely a really solid champion who belongs on the list in my opinion. You've got the triple hitter decreased speed here as long as you're critting. Then you also have the ability to do lots of cool things with placing a ton of poisons and getting synergies rolling with someone like Calvalax, Zavia, things like that for blowing up dungeons and getting those amazing speed runs when you're in the mid game. And then you also have this A3 that brings a ton of utility as well and turn meter manipulation. So just kind of like the overall utility of his kit and the ability to utilize him to do some really cool things like soloing certain dungeons and stuff like that. Definitely wanted him to be here at least on the list. Number 93 is going to be the Lizardman Legendary Fushan. And now Fushan can be a really popular champion used in lots of Demon Lord compositions. I use him in my unkillable composition. He cranks out tons of damage, does a lot of multi-hitters, breaks defense, and he also has one of the best auras in the game of increased ally speed in all battles by 24%, which is going to be tied for the highest all battle speed aura. And you have an A1 that can pop off with extra hits, the A2 that is going to be a multi-hitter with a pretty reliable chance to stun, so he's going to be amazing in faction wars. You'll definitely want to use him there in the Lizardman Crypt, but also if you're trying to progress in the Doom Tower, you get this guy with good RNG trying stages over and over until you can proc some really good stuns on each wave. He can really help you progress in content like that as well. And then you get the 4-hitter, which is rare in Raid, where you're going to be keeping that defense down permanently in a context somewhere like the Demon Lord. Number 92 is Knott the Paralyzer. Now, I really love Knott. He's one of the cooler looking champions. I love his weapons and I love his kit. I've actually used him to some decent success in the live arena, and if you pull him early in the game, he is an amazing champion for progression and cranks out a ton of value utility. Look at this A1. We're going to attack one enemy and lower the accuracy, so if you're ever in a context where you're trying to build a high resistance team, he is going to be crucial and keep it up basically permanently in that context versus the boss. Then on the A2, we have an AoE chance to place a sleep and then also 2 poison debuffs, while also placing 2 additional poisons for 2 turns whenever the sleep debuff placed by the skill is removed or disappears after taking damage. So tons of poison, and it's going to synergize with the rest of his kit. You have the A3, where he's going to do ally protection and then also place continuous heal on everybody. And then the passive is going to synergize with all of those poisons, healing this champion by 3% of max HP and all allies by 1% of his HP every single time a poison debuff ticks on an enemy. So you've got AoE poisons going everywhere and these constant ticks of healing that can be super fun to watch snowball, and he's protecting your whole team while he's doing it. Plus, he just gets passive CC, and I love passive value. Whenever an ally is attacked under an ally protection, he has a 40% chance of placing a sleep on them, and there's no cooldown on that or anything. Plus, you have a really good aura here in dungeons. So Knott, super fun and unique champion, and he scales with HP. Crank out a ton of HP on this guy, and he's going to bring a lot of protection and healing and poison and CC and passive value. And our last champion for the first video of the Raid Shadow Legends Dopamine Index is going to be Valkynin. Now, Valkynin has a crazy kit. He is a tough one to place because he can either be like crazy insane, or he can be a meme trash can, not really doing a whole lot. And he is a difficult champion to understand and get consistent value out of, just kind of because of how he works. He has to do like this target an ally, and then if they're alive or they're dead, his abilities are going to function differently. I've been meaning to do a dedicated video on him because I was lucky enough to pull him a little bit ago and add him to my account, and I want to do a deep dive test on him, an infographic and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Valkynin, tough one to rank. I wanted to at least get him in here though and get him up at number 91 because he does have a very unique and fun kit. So that does it for number 91 through 100. We had Allure, Husk, Royal Guard, Ugo, Stag Knight, Vlad the Nightborn, Tomb Lord, Fushan, Knott the Paralyzer, and Valkynin. So remember to subscribe on your way out so you don't miss the next video where I'm going to be going over numbers 81 through 90. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.